Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
Today is a big day. Many people are expecting an update from the court process that is going on between the state and the family of the late President Edgar Lungu. Let's just walk back. We brief ourselves why we are where we are. On June 5th, we woke up to very sad news as a country and the world that the late president had died after a short illness. He had been in South Africa since January 2025. On this particular day, on 5th June, he passed on after undergoing what was a medical procedure, and the current issue then started. The government sent Mulambo Haimbe, who's a Minister of Foreign Affairs, the following day, and he went with a plane, a ZAF plane, and with a very limited delegation. His quest was to discuss with the family and repatriate the remains of the late president to Zambia. That was the first disagreement that occurred. I remember that Saturday. The late president died on Thursday. Friday, Honorable Mulambo Haimbe arrived, and there was those discussions Friday night and Saturday where the first impasse arose. The issue was that, look, government just can't come and pick the body. The family had been in South Africa for the last 6 months. There were various issues that had preceded where the government had not even sent any delegation to see how the late president was doing, how the president was recuperating in South Africa for his both medical checkup and then the subsequent medical treatment. That was the first time we had an inkling that there was an issue between government and the state. When the talks broke down, Mulambo Haimbe traveled back, but one of the issues was that the funeral of the late president and the body could come to Lusaka the following Wednesday. I think that was the 12th, the following Wednesday, and that there was a church service that was arranged by the community in South Africa, and that the family felt very strongly that the late president's body couldn't be transported any earlier than that Tuesday, because they wanted to honor the people that had helped them be with the late president in South Africa. And on Tuesday, we had that wonderful send-off by the South African. There was at the cathedral in Pretoria, Father Harrison Mulenga and 7 Zambian priests presided over that ceremony. And then we had that announcement at the end of the ceremony. The family spokesperson, Honorable Makebi Zulu, came and announced to the family that the body was not going to be repatriated the following day on Wednesday, because it was scheduled to come to Zambia. And he announced that there were issues that they were still discussing with government. Lucky enough, the delegation led by Patrick Kangwa, the Secretary to Cabinet, had replaced the delegation that was earlier led by Mulambo Haimbe. So Patrick Kangwa had come with Honorable former Vice President Enoch Kavindele and former Secretary to Cabinet Mr. Leslie Mbula, who also was previously Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa. So there were negotiations and they were hammering out the particular details. So I think Zambians understood, the family understood, everyone understood that these talks needed to take place. And remember, the talks were delayed for number one, there was an incident that occurred a day before they could hold that church service. On 9th June, persons identifying themselves as coming from the state attempted to take the remains of the late president. They said the RAF plane was waiting at Lanseria Airport and they had instructions to take the body. The family was called and there was utter shock. Lucky enough, the hospital couldn't release the body because they said under the rules in South Africa, only the next of kin, who was Mama First Lady, could sign off for the body to be released. That's how the family became aware, because then they were informed that there were people to pick the body. In the evenings, government denied any knowledge. I think our dear brother Cornelius Mwetwa, whose government chief spokesperson was somewhere in Mauritius or Kenya, he issued a statement assuring the family that they will respect the wishes of the family and that they will not take the remains of the late president without their knowledge. And he said they were investigating who these people that had turned up at the hospital to pick the body. So that had become an issue leading up to the church service with those tensions. Who are these people that attempted to take the body? And they were saying the ZAF plane was waiting at Lanseria Airport. After the church service, the family went into negotiations. And I think by Sunday, we got that announcement that the discussions had taken place by Thursday. I think that was Thursday that week. I have to look at the dates clearly. But you saw that big press conference where an agreement was announced. Let's just have a bit of it as we build up to what happened today, because I have to walk you through that so that we all are just agreed. So the press conference took place. We'll just get a bit of it, not all of it.
We thank you that this is the day that you have made, and that in it we rejoice before you, knowing that you are a God who is concerned with the affairs of our country. And even for this joint press statement, we just want to pray that you will be able to join us together in one spirit as a nation, even as we mourn our dear departed, the late 60th President, Dr.
Edgar Chagwa and the government of the Republic of Zambia. I present a statement on behalf of the family. The family of the former President Edgar Chagwa, who passed away in South Africa on the 5th of June 2025, wishes to announce that it has reached agreement with representatives of the government on the repatriation of the remains of the late former president, as well as his funeral and burial program. This follows the resolution of the impasse that had caused disagreement between the two parties. We wish to thank the former heads of state in the SADC region and head of state in the SADC region for their intervention in this matter. We also wish to thank the clergy that took time to engage for the final resolution in this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be aware that in January this year, former President Lungu traveled to South Africa for medical review. Through the goodwill of well-wishers who also generously covered both his medical and living expenses until his demise. At no time did the administration take any interest in his well-being during his illness when he was alive. Former President Lungu's settled wishes were that in the event of his death, those who never showed any interest in his welfare while he was alive should not be allowed to pretend to be interested in his welfare in death. His specific wishes and those of the family are as follows. 1. His remains should be repatriated back home in the same manner he had traveled to South Africa, namely privately. Secondly, his body should lie instead at his personal residence in Chifwema area prior to burial. Thirdly, in the event that he was accorded state funeral, his successor should not be allowed to attend it. Fourth, residents of Eastern and Copperbelt provinces be accorded the opportunity to pay their last respects, as these are the places where he was born and grew up. And fifthly, that Archbishop Dr. Alik Banda be requested to preside over the church service that may be held in his honor. Following the former president's death, the family has been engaged in protracted negotiations with the Hichilema administration, which it requested to guarantee that the wishes of the former president will be honored. The negotiations were never about pending matters in court relating to any of the members of the family or associates of the former president. And I'm sure Secretary to the Cabinet may agree that that was never the discussion in those meetings, and that never even arose in our negotiations. The spirit of the discussions were to honor the wishes of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, the family, and give the Zambian people an opportunity to mourn their leader with dignity. The state had previously refused to have the family repatriate the remains using a private charter. The state had also previously refused to have the body lay in state at his home for the period of the mourning. Instead, the state had required that the remains upon arrival would be taken to Mulungushi Conference Center to be received by President Hakainde Hichilema, and that the family found unacceptable, and hence the protracted negotiations. The two parties have since agreed to honoring the following undertakings, with each party giving and taking so that we could come to a common compromise. And the following has been the compromise. Number one, that the body of the late President Lungu shall be transported together with the family from Lanseria Airport in South Africa to Zambia on Wednesday, 18th June 2025, using a private charter made available to the family by well-wishers. Secondly, that following the arrival and receipt of the body by family members in Lusaka, full military honors will be conducted at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, after which the body shall be taken to the funeral house in Chifwema, where it will lie instead. Thirdly, that the body of the late former president will be taken to Mulungushi International Conference Center on Thursday, 19th June, Friday, 20th June, and Saturday, 21st June, to enable members of the public to pay their last respects from 09 hours to 16 hours, after which it shall be returned on all days to the funeral house in Chifwema to lie instead. That the state funeral that will host foreign dignitaries shall be held at Mulungushi Conference Center on Sunday, 22nd June, and the body of former President Lungu shall be taken to the venue and returned to Chifwema after the event, where it will lie instead. That a valedictory session will be held at the Supreme Court grounds in honor of former President Lungu, a lawyer by profession, on Monday, 23rd June, to be followed by a church service on the same day in the showgrounds in Lusaka, one that would be conducted by His Grace Archbishop Alik Banda. That the body of the late former president shall always lie in state at the funeral house in Chifwema and only be taken away for the above stated functions during the day, after which it shall be returned to the funeral house every day to lie in state at the conclusion of these events. That the body of the late president shall always be accompanied by a relative, the aide-de-camp, and the former president's personal physician. That the period of national mourning shall be extended, and that the two parties shall always consult and agree on who speaks at all events. And further, to avoid the confusion that has been ongoing relating to the Patriotic Front Party, that Honorable Given Lubinda will speak on behalf of the Patriotic Front Party. It is important to emphasize that the family is proceeding based on the guarantees given by the government of the Republic of Zambia that they will not deviate from our agreement or betray the trust of the family and the wishes of the former president. The family hopes that this outcome will bring this matter to a close and avoid further trauma to the family and millions of affected ordinary Zambians. We wish to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Zambian people at home and away who gave the late former president their love, both in life and in death. Your outpouring of love has strengthened us and lightened our burden. We would also like to thank the leadership and general membership of the Patriotic Front, Tonse Alliance partners for their undying support and loyalty to the late former president. We understand that the events of the preceding days and weeks have been difficult for many ordinary Zambians, and especially the supporters and political colleagues of the late former president. We apologize most sincerely for the inconvenience and pain that the protracted negotiations may have caused, but we were doing our best to honor the former president's personal wishes. We further regret that the desire to have the remains moved from Osaka to Petauke, his home village, and Kitwe, a place where he grew up in, were not acceptable to the government, and thus urge all that would wish to pay their respect to make use of the 3 days of body viewing in Lusaka. We apologize that this will not happen, but can only urge government to reconsider that position. It is the hope of the family that the former president, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, will be mourned with dignity, respect, and unity. We thank you for your understanding, and we hope that we can move on as one Zambia and one nation.
Thank you very much. So then what happened? The conditions were very, very clear by the family that they were proceeding with releasing the body and abandoning what should have been a private funeral and surrendering it to the state on the conditions that Honorable Makebi Zulu read out. The following day, when the body should have gone to Zambia, it didn't go. Everyone was packed. Everyone was going to the airport. Even our media were at the airport. The South African Defence Force was at the airport. Everyone was at the airport, and the family had also packed because they were supposed to accompany the body. The plane was ready, the chartered plane that was hired. So what happened? What happened is very simple. The previous night, a program was released by Cabinet Office, first shared on Koswe. You know, Koswe is a rogue media run by President Hakainde Hichilema from State Out and his media team. And then later shared personally. I was broadcasting of this good news and urging our members to turn up, to line up. Then I just saw on my phone, a PS from Cabinet Office, Teta Mashimba's update. You know how Facebook does. So she posted the program of the late president that was going to happen the following day. And on the program, I even remember sharing it on the platform. The program substantially differed in nuances and details from the outline and the agreement that Honorable Makebi Zulu read. First, earlier in the night, the family became aware that the road to Chifwema from Crossroads, Leopard Zoo Road, up to Chifwema will be closed because RDA will begin public works to do some works, patch up and repair of the road, and also to create, I'm told, some drainage on the road to the new road that comes from Leopard Zoo Road to President Hakainde Hichilema's home. So the family got concerned. What are these roadworks that are going to take place when the body is supposed to go to Chifwema? We can see that the state is going to say it's not up to us. RDA is doing public works. Therefore, the body should go to Maina Soko instead of Chifwema. That was the first crisis in the night before the travel. Patrick Kangwa, I think, was gracious enough, Secretary to Cabinet. Within an hour, he produced a fresh statement from RDA that cancelled the repair of that road and stated that the road repairs would be moved from the date that was prepared, I think 18th June to 28th June, way after the burial of the late president. Then that program then came up. The concerns around that program was that there was going to be a private church service at the airport. You all have that program. You can refer to it. And when the body arrives, the remains arrive, the guard of honor and all the distinguished honor that is given by the Zambia Army or by the Defense Forces was going to be done. Then they were going to move for a private church service. I don't know where it was going to be. Maybe in the VIP room. So the family got concerned. This program, what about this private church service? And what about these roadworks that you are talking about? Who will attend this church service? In the morning, on the program, there were supposed to be spouses to former ministers to the late president, former ministers, spouses to the late president, were supposed to come and receive the first lady, the widow. There was an issue that day. I think clearance and cards were not given the following day. Up to that day, the cards were not given for these that were supposed to release the family, the former first lady. So the family, as at the day of departure, Cabinet Office, Patrick Kangwa and everyone now stopped to answer the phones. I think they were trying to trick them to travel anyway, despite all these concerns. The family had to regret at 10 hours. They were supposed to leave at 12 hours because it's a 2-hour flight to Zambia. They had no choice but to communicate to the South African government that we are putting off the travel and the family will be issuing a statement, because the concerns were not taken into account. And remember, there were reports that the entire airport road was cordoned off by heavy police presence, where people then would not be allowed probably to watch the hearse when it brings the remains of the late president. So there were all those issues, and the family felt it was not safe to bring the body. So there was that huge crisis. The family had to cancel that travel, regrettably so. And they said, we'll announce to you, we probably have to engage government again over our concerns until our concerns are attended. Until all these issues are resolved, we will only transport the remains of the late president upon these issues. Now we saw an adverse reaction from government. The following day, the president addressed the country and cancelled the period of national mourning, and he said Zambians should proceed. I think I have the video somewhere. I'll get it for you. Zambians should proceed to go back to normalcy. They will respect the plans and wishes of the family. That was President Hakainde Hichilema. He cancelled the period of national mourning. Remember, we were supposed to bury on 23rd, Monday 23rd of June. President Hakainde Hichilema on Thursday, 19th June, cancelled the period of national mourning, urged the country to go back to normalcy. Cosway and other media even began to publish that the constitutional bill was going to be presented. Zambia had more important things to do than worry about a body that is in South Africa. President Hakainde Hichilema, in his own words, says he would respect what the family would do. So on Thursday, the family waited. No one was answering the phone calls. They sat, and the family decided that they'll put to rest the president in South Africa. And they made that announcement. Or the following day, I think that was Friday. And they announced that the late president will be put to rest on Wednesday, 25th June. President Hakainde Hichilema had told the country to go back to normalcy. And preparations were underway. There was no one who traveled to South Africa during this period to dissuade the family or to attempt to tell the family to abandon the plans to put the president to rest. The family proceeded, because remember, They had filled in all their forms, all the forms regarding the repatriation of the president. They gave the embassy the death certificate. They filled in the forms for export of the remains of the body of a departed person. They surrendered all the documents relating to the repatriation. And those documents began to appear. Simon Mwewa, Chilufya Tayari, and Koswe began to publish death certificates. They even began to question, has he really died? Can you imagine publishing the death certificate of the late president? That even shows the cause of his death. Can you imagine? The family was now resolved that I think government had crossed a line that they can never go back to. Why would you publish these documents given in total confidence to the embassy for purposes of transporting the body? Why would they find themselves on Koswe and other pages? Why would the nation be given the death certificate of the late president, yet you are saying you want to give him a dignified funeral? So the family now just resolved. And then there was a heightened attacks on them. The slander, the defamation, the hate speech, the State House trying to rally the country against the family. The family realized that it was extremely hostile for them to bury in Zambia. And they proceeded to make preparations. So Archbishop Alik Banda traveled. It was a wish of the late president that Archbishop Alik Banda, the Catholic Archbishop of the Metropolitan Archdiocese of Lusaka, must preside over the funeral. And preparations were made, and we made an announcement, and Zambians traveled. Planes the last 2 days before that day on Wednesday, 25th June, were full. Buses were full, others traveled by road. Zambians in South Africa from other provinces traveled, and they gathered at the cathedral. The night before the burial, the funeral and burial, we saw the usual Koswe, ZMBC, Kalemba publish that an action had been taken by the Attorney General that he was requesting that a Pretoria High Court interdicts both the funeral and the burial, and that the burial should not take place. The family had its meetings. They were now forced to look for a lawyer. Looking for a lawyer in South Africa is extremely expensive. We've discussed the matter here on this program. In South Africa, law, the way it's practiced, is practiced as a business. It's an investment. If you have millions of dollars or millions of rands, you set up a law firm, then employ lawyers. Here in Zambia, my brother Dixon Jere can just set up Dixon Jere and Partners, or my dear brother John Sango and Partners. That's how it's done in Zambia. In South Africa, it's a huge investment. Companies come together and form and then employ lawyers. So lawyers are not your ordinary people. Fida tuchitatao basangwa inena banjikata iseni indalama tukafuanga shamoneka mukesa nchita represent. The family was forced to look for a lawyer in the night, so that that lawyer could represent them the following day in the morning. You can imagine the stress the family was further put on. Government is using public resources. They don't have to look for money. They'll just tell Musokotwane to pay whatever bill that the lawyers in South Africa demanded. It was a distressing period. You saw the widow the following day. Instead of being at church, she was in a court of law in Pretoria. You saw the family. They were in a court of law in Pretoria, a day they are supposed to put to rest the president. There was an agreement. You know, interdict is an injunction. It can be given ex parte or inter parte. The lawyers advised that in South Africa, usually injunctions are granted. Then the parties are allowed to argue, because the court wants to understand what is happening. So they will usually grant that injunction. So after that advice, an agreement was hammered out between the Attorney General's lawyers and President Lungu's family's lawyers, that what should happen is that let's not even argue this injunction. We're just going to waste 3, 4, 5 days arguing about this injunction. Let's just proceed. We'll halt the burial program. The funeral will just become, it will no longer be a requiem service, but it will just be a church service and like a memorial. And then there'll be an opportunity between the state and the family, maybe to resolve. The family and the state agreed, and that injunction or interdict was a rare one because it was mutual agreement by both parties that they abandoned that issue. They don't really argue for the injunction and that there should be a settlement. The court stopped the burial. The church service proceeded. South African government issued a statement, discussed the matter in cabinet, and even issued a public statement urging the Zambian government and the family to use this opportunity between 25th June and 18th June, when both parties are supposed to submit, to come to some mutual understanding to see that the remains of the late president are repatriated to Zambia. Unfortunately, what has happened is escalated hostility, causeway, and the influencers that have been speaking on these matters from President Hakainde Hichilema made the environment extremely hostile. They've even now escalated it. You saw even an international organization. Now there is a new narrative that the family has so much millions of dollars that they want to remain in South Africa. Yet President Edgar Lungu was struggling even to pay the medical bills. I don't think the medical bills have even been cleared. They were living in a rented house, in a rented flat, because where they are is a complex of many flats. If you are a millionaire, you stay on your own yard with no neighbors. You don't live in one complex. But they were, for the last 6 months, were living in a complex, what you would call literally a rented flat. But President Hichilema and the State House have now embarked on this scandalization of the family. You saw this, let's see, this family that was, this group that was organized, from our understanding, it was organized by Brentes Foundation. Let's see, do I have it? The press conference that was, just a minute, give me a minute. I want to show you this press conference that was held by a group calling itself Progressives of South Africa. We know that they are organized by State House. State House might deny, but we can tell you very confidently that this group from South Africa was organized by Zambia State House. In fact, it should put to question, we even know how much they were paid. We know how much they were paid. Today was Nelson Mandela Day in South Africa. There are people that were willing to speak to us, but today was Nelson Mandela Day. I was going to bring them here to demonstrate what I am stating. But the period between 25th June to today, 18th July, has not been utilized to resolve the crisis. There were low-level people that were sent to South Africa to attempt to speak to the president. I'm aware of my dear brother, Professor Dr. Edgar Ngoma. He traveled to South Africa. He says it is his own initiative that he was speaking to President Hakainde Hichilema, and he was hoping to speak to the family that he could help resolve this issue. I'm aware that Kaweche Kaunda, the son to the late president, whose matter is similar to this impasse, had also traveled to South Africa. We are aware of many people that have traveled to South Africa and have attempted to see the family. I think the First Lady and the family have been in a retreat, in a prayer retreat, and because the environment is so toxic, if they open social media, if they see these live videos, if they see these newspapers, yesterday now there was a scandal exported right in South Africa where they are being told that they should leave South Africa. An agitation done by State House, not anybody else. And so the family have been in a prayer retreat and they're relying on the lawyers to resolve this matter in court. So then what happened today? People are asking, is it Judgment Day? No. Judgment will be on 8. It will be, I think, 18th August. The calendar is as follows. the Attorney General, after he obtained an interdict, was given up to 3rd July to make his submissions. Then the family were supposed to respond, which the family did. So we saw the Attorney General now bring fresh demands. Number one, he wanted the remains of the late president to be repatriated. He wanted the South African government and the family to surrender the body of the late president, that it should be repatriated to Zambia. And then the family responded that, first of all, the body belongs to the next of kin, not to President Hakainde Hichilema or to the state of Zambia. It belongs to the state of, to the next of kin. Two, the environment in Zambia is extremely hostile for the family, and that no dignified funeral can take place. They'll be participating in hypocrisy if they were to bring the remains of the late president to Zambia, because of all these piled up insults by praise singers. President Hakainde Hichilema has never stopped these praise singers and Koswe and other people. He has never stopped them. In fact, the abuse, the hate speech has been transported even to ZMBC. Chiefs have been lined up to attempt to show that the family is just selfish. Surrender the body, surrender the body. But no one is speaking to the condition that the family gave, that President Hakainde Hichilema stays away from the body. No one is urging President Hakainde Hichilema to step aside to allow the funeral to take place. But there have been queues and queues. Surrender the body, surrender the body, surrender the body. So the environment is toxic. The family recounted, I think the former First Lady recounted, how President Edgar Lungu was humiliated in life, was embarrassed, was harassed, how they themselves are in courts of law, how they were stopped again and again to travel, especially the late president. So today the Attorney General, or 18th, he was responding. People thought it's Judgment Day. No. Remember, he put out, I want the body. So the family responded. So now he is responding to the family. And he has made some disclosures that I want to come and discuss when I come after this break. So that then I invite you to, I'll speak to the submissions that he has made. So the calendar is very clear. The Attorney General has responded to the First Lady's petition that was responding to him. And on 24th, the lawyers for the family again have to respond. Now you have a complete picture. Then trial will begin on 3rd and 4th of August. Then the court, a bench of 3, will rule on 18th August. That is a calendar. So let's come back. What has the Attorney General said in his current submission in the Gauteng Court, Pretoria Division today? What did he file? I'll read to you.
From what we see, what we read, they are handling the funeral in a manner African funerals must be handled, to respect the dead, to bury them with dignity. President Buhari died in London. He was brought home. We too have shown that example by burying all the 5 before the 6th president, near here. I think it's just behind, isn't it? Near here, all the 5. So we've established a tradition, protocols in line with the African culture. So we must continue with that culture, no matter what challenges, what difficulties there. And I can't say that we've continued engaging the family quietly. Maybe I should confirm that. We've continued engaging the family quietly, because that's what it should be. And we do hope that consensus will be reached. And I want to ask Zambians, first, thank you for your patience, and secondly, to ask you to retain that patience as discussions continue.
How can you allow somebody who has murdered your son or your daughter, and you are still mourning, to come and attend the funeral, and we need to speak at the funeral?
But how good your son
was, and you know about it, you say, wait a minute, what's happening? And I think I can just say the whole thing. I summed it up when I spoke to one guy. I said, because how can you, Ambassador, a Catholic, be remembered in a Jehovah's Witness hall.
Yeah.
In the 10th anniversary, or how do you get
To be dishonored
how
memory.
do you get remembered in a SDA church when everyone knows that you're Catholic?
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. We're giving you an update of what happened in the Pretoria High Court, but I bothered to go back to just a brief history of this matter, just to update one another. So today the Attorney General made submission. It was his period to respond to the First Lady's submission. Her submission were very clear that the wishes of the late president cannot be honored currently by President Hakainde Hichilema, as demonstrated. One of the wishes is that the president should stay away from the funeral. He has not even pledged to do so. The environment is hostile, and the wishes of the late president cannot be respected. Even the so-called dignified funeral will be hypocrisy. They'll be participating in hypocrisy. So the Attorney General has taken offense. He has urged the court to strike out some allegations he thinks were very strong. But for me, I couldn't believe this Attorney General, Murilo Kabesha. Number one, he has admitted that they stopped the late president from going to South Korea. He says the president's trip to South Korea in September 2023 was going to go to politicize. Now, the president had been invited to a respected annual peace conference. The World Peace Conference has been held, I think, for the last 30, 40 years in South Korea, in Seoul. And President Edgar Lungu, like many leaders in Zambia, were invited. And many leaders in Zambia have been attending this peace conference that takes place in South Korea. The Attorney General has admitted that we stopped him because we felt he was going to politicize. Do we have voters in South Korea? Attorney General says Edgar Lungu was going to politicize or to do politics. He says they refused President Lungu's travel again is it on August? He said in 2023, August, to Ndola. There was a church service at a prayer community in Ndola had organized. They said they stopped him from travel because he was going to politicize the event. Then look at the medical treatment. Remember, the contention here is that persistently, despite government knowing the medical condition of the late president, despite knowing that he needed to attend at least to a medical doctor every 6 months or at least 1 year. And President Lungu last traveled to South Africa to see his medical treatment in 2022. They refused him in 2022, towards the end of 2022. 2023, they refused him 2-3 times. We've shown you the letters here. The Attorney General has admitted, especially the case of September. He says, we didn't allow him to go to South Africa for medical treatment because he didn't disclose to government the type of medical condition and medical treatment that he wanted to go and seek in South Africa. Did President Lungu need to tell government inaka kondokale kalipa inomutu wale kalipa na chilana kwa techa kale chile kalipa? Did he need to tell them? The submissions and admissions by the Attorney General, preposterous at best and useless at worst. Because how can you admit in sworn documents? Maybe I should read what the Attorney General. Propaganda. Yeah, I want to read what the Attorney General said. So that we want to Akwalesa, you can see 11.1. If you've seen the document of the Attorney General, go to 11.1. The applicant is the Attorney General on behalf of the state. Is the one that has applied to court. So it's called the applicant. President Lungu's family, the 7, are called the defendants. The applicant refused to grant the late president permission to visit South Africa during September 2023. This was because the late President Lungu did not provide the applicant, who is a state, with any particulars of the medical treatment is alleged that he wanted to undergo. So the state refused to allow President Lungu to go to South Africa because he didn't tell them what he was suffering from. But later in the documents they said, we've been aware that he has a condition. Oh, here it is, 11.4. Finally, I should point out that the late President Lungu entered the borders of South Africa, of the Republic of South Africa, in January 2025 through a diplomatic passport and under circumstances where he has been ill from at least 2015. In the same breath, you are saying we couldn't allow him to travel because we don't know what medical condition or medical treatment he was seeking. Then just in the subsequent paragraph, you say we know he went to South Africa and he entered South Africa using a diplomatic passport in January 2025. We know it is related to his medical condition that he's been undergoing since 2015. Mwe bantu bakwalesa mipamba batlese fya bomba abenebeka bambo ukusumina au twale mukanya twale bataleshita politic. And what must be made very clear, in September 2023 President Edgar Lungu had not returned to active politics. He had not. If you see the calendar of events, it is in October, on the Memorial Day for President Michael Sata, October 28th, that President Edgar Lungu says, the events of October 24th, where the party has been taken over by surrogates of the state of President Hakainde Hichilema, I'm coming back. I'm foregoing my benefits, my retirement benefits. I am surrendering the security and everything to the state. I'm coming back to fight for democracy. I'm coming back to ensure that the PF is restored. In fact, if there is anything that Given Rubinda, Nakachinda, Brian Mundwil and others should do, is to fulfill that wish of the late president. He made it very clear that he was coming back to politics. He was sacrificing the comfort of being a former head of state, the comfort of being a statesman, to come and rescue the country, to restore the country back to democracy, and to rescue the PF from the clutches of President Hakainde Hichilema, who had taken over the Patriotic Front. So all these events that the Attorney General is citing, and lucky enough, is Pumole Sabela. Now become one of my dates Attorney General. And he has said we didn't allow him to travel. The rest of the submissions are for the public media and the state and also to take. But for me, it was profound that the Attorney General has admitted to these issues. I'll open the phone lines and please join me in the debate. The number is 0973078082. It's Friday. Let's have a short conversation. We can close this matter. The president was yesterday at the Nigerian High Commission next to Intercontinental, and you heard the president say that Zambia should learn from Nigeria, where they've put to rest the late president with dignity. Bakateka Buhari awa mutumile ku UK ni ba government tabaevela ti awe tabamwipusha finshulelo wala finshulevoke bali mupela. They gave him a plane, he went to UK. When he died, they sent a vice president. Don't even compare yourself, Mr. President, to that. You are far off, far away. And Buhari has been buried in a backyard in his village, not even in his plush home in Lagos. He's been buried in his village, at his house in the village, in the backyard. But it's a government that took him to the United Kingdom. They sent a vice president. So, Mr. President, your words ring hollow. You didn't send President Lungu to South Africa. You have not allowed him a dignified funeral. You've heightened the insults against your predecessor. You are scandalizing him every day. You've raised and you are spending a lot of money just to scandalize the family of the late president. So, I found it hollow. I found let me play your words, Mr. President. Maybe you're not aware of the full background. I don't understand how you make these remarks, like you're not aware of what you are doing yourself.
From what we see, what we read, they are handling the funeral in a manner African funerals must be handled, to respect the dead, to bury them with dignity. President Buhari died in London. He was brought home. We too have shown that example by burying all the 5 before the 6th president, near here. I think it's just behind, isn't it? Near here, all the 5. So we've established a tradition, protocols in line with the African culture. So we must continue with that culture, no matter what challenges, what difficulties there are. And I can't say that we'll continue to engage in the family quietly. Maybe I should confirm that. We'll continue to engage in the family quietly, because that's what it should be. And we do hope that consensus will be reached. And I want to ask Zambians, first, thank you for your patience. And secondly, to ask you to retain that patience as discussions continue, and so we can do what is right.
How can you allow somebody who has murdered your son or your daughter and you are still mourning to come and attend the funeral, and you need to speak at the funeral?
But how good your son
was, and you know about it, you say, wait a minute, what's happening? And I think I can just say the whole thing. I summed it up when I spoke to one guy. I said, because how can you, Ambassador?
Thank you very much. The lines are open. Let me hear from you. That's the update we're giving from South Africa. And the Attorney General has made his submissions.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.